Let's begin with this. The problems plaguing the taxi industry in the Western Cape appear to be deepening. Tensions have been flaring between Cape Town city officials and taxi operators, and this week the situation appeared to have escalated. Santaco has now resolved that their taxis should be pulled from the taxi ranks and rather be parked at home. Rebecca Phala is the Santaco's spokesperson and joins us live now. Rebecca, thank you so much for your time this evening. Is the call to pull the taxis going ahead?
Hi, Bongi, and to your viewers. Yes, we can confirm that a delegation of the leadership of Santaco from the national office, the province, regions, as well as all associations met today in Khayelitsha, and they have since resolved to stay off the operation of all taxis until next week, Wednesday.
Is this still part of, that standoff in regards to the introduction of the bylaw to impound, vehicles instead of issuing fines? Is that still the only issue here? Rebecca, we seem to have lost you. I'm not sure if you've muted yourself.
Are you able to hear
me? Yes, now we can hear you. Go ahead. Rebecca? Rebecca, are you able to hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Sorry about that.
The question was, it appears as if the situation between yourselves and the city is far from being resolved. And I wonder if that meeting, going into it, the bone of contention is still the introduction of the bylaw to impound the vehicles instead of issuing fines, or have there been more issues added in this regard?
Look, we don't want to necessarily admit to our issues being far from over, because we care about our commuters and we want for these differences to be resolved. Having said that, you're quite correct in saying that what we've since experienced, which has led to this decision that we've taken as an industry, is because there seems to be some concerted effort by the leadership of the city of Cape Town to particularly move away all operation of taxis within their roads, because we are facing a situation where, in the name of implementing these bylaws, we have instances where when a driver commits an offense, the immediate action that's taken by these traffic officials is to impound a vehicle. For instance, if a driver changes lanes without having indicated, we've since been told that when a traffic official stops such a driver, the immediate decision is to impound the vehicle. That cannot sound logical to any person that understands the rules of the road. And so we have found that we have no other choice but to stay clear and find a way alternatively to be in dialogue with government before we can proceed any further. Otherwise, we might just find ourselves not having any more vehicles to operate in the city of Cape Town, which would obviously be regrettable for the well-being of taxi operators, but as well as the people that rely on taxis to commute to various destinations on a daily basis.
Rebecca, you do understand, though, the importance of the rules of the road being obeyed. And as you say, your members sometimes are not innocent in this particular regard and may then possibly have had a hand in the city having to be heavy-handed here because some of them simply don't listen.
No, these are two different issues, Bongi. One, yes, we do not in any way promote unlawful behavior on the road. The engagements that you and I have had in previous instances, I've always said to you that because we understand that we've got this problem, especially from our drivers, we even train them so that they can better abide by the rules of the road. But if a driver is found to be wrong and the immediate decision is to impound a vehicle, what's the linkage there? Especially if we're talking about some of the examples that I've just given you. So we don't have necessarily a problem with drivers being brought to book, but let it make sense. Why does it seem as though there's a concerted effort to just do away with vehicles in their entirety?
So what did the city say is the reason for them to moving to impound instead of fines?
They are telling us that they're implementing the bylaws, but the kind of engagements that we've been having, I mean, in some instances, the MMC, JP Smith, has gone as far as saying that this is an art of war. And that's one of the reasons why we say that to a certain extent, we're convinced that perhaps there's a bigger approach here that's trying to do away with our operations.
Wait, he says it's an act or an art of war?
Art.
An art of war against who?
It's obviously you can't confirm who he could be referring to, but we're talking about taxis being impounded in large numbers. So the kind of approach and response that we've received from the leadership of the city of Cape Town hasn't been one that seems to suggest that they are willing to ensure that those that are found to be in the wrong are brought to book. It appears as though they just want to do away with our vehicles completely.
And Rebecca, I wonder though, if such words are then being used and the situation is where it is, then what I said earlier could be correct, that it may be that these issues are far from over.
Look, Bongi, the thing is, like I said again, it's two different things. Until the city of Cape Town can help you and I and everyone else in South Africa understand the linkage between taking an offense committed by a driver and equating it to an offense that would lead to the impounding of a vehicle, it truly leaves us just surprised and worried to know exactly what the reasons are.
So when the taxis, as you say, are going to be, obviously parked in the yards of the operators until the 9th, if then you do not get your questions answered or some of, the issues that you have addressed in this regard, do you then send them back to the streets or they continue to still be at home? I'm trying to understand to what end.
We want to be very optimistic. The Office of the President of Santaco has already written a correspondence to the Office of the National Minister of Transport so that they can come and intervene in these matters. We're not going to tire until these issues are resolved. And so until we get to Wednesday and nothing has been done, you and I can then have that discussion to say what will happen moving forward. From where we stand now, we're going to do all in our power. We're not just sitting back and folding our arms, by the way. That's why I'm saying we've already reached out to the National Department of Transport. We are not opposed to dialogue. We just don't want dialogue that takes place like what's happening with the task team that our members in the Western Cape were a part of, where they would engage in dialogue, but in retrospect, what would be happening on the ground is that more vehicles would be impounded by the day.
Rebecca, I'm out of time, but I have to ask you this one. I mean, it's not only commuters that one is thinking about here. You're thinking about operators and some of the taxi owners who've borne the brunt of the COVID-19 pandemic, who are bearing the brunt of the rising cost of living, who are bearing the brunt also of the increase in the fuel prices. And now, for a few days, they will not be in operation. This is going to hit very hard in their pockets. How do you begin to support them then?
It is going to hit very hard. It already is hitting hard. In addition to some of those challenges you've already mentioned, just this year alone, a total of 480 taxis have already been repossessed by some of the banking sector because we are battling to meet up with the monthly expected amounts. So this that we're doing now, this decision to stay away, is so that we avoid further impact. Because now if we continue to operate and more vehicles are being taken, it means that we're adding on to that list of problems that you've already cited. So we want to take this cautionary measure to pause a bit and find alternative ways so that when we resume with operations, we do so with some sense of comfort. Because where we stand now, we feel like we're operating at a loss, and it's like there are some who also have a concerted effort to worsen our realities.
All right, Rebecca, let's talk, as you say, next week and see how the situation begins to then, subside. And we'll also reach out to the city just to get a sense from them, as you say, that there appears to be a concerted effort to move the taxi operators off the roads. And what exactly is happening here? Let's get some answers and we'll try and reach the city. That was Rebecca Phala, Santaco spokesperson, as we look at some of the taxi issues that are unfolding in the Western Cape.